Tara, what are you up to this week? And yes, you can talk about it.
Talk about what? You'll have to tell me.
No, just start playing around with Google Cloud Storage. She goes, nope, I'm not. I'm just going to type it.
I'm trying to fix my name real quick.
Never heard of it.
Just been working on a database restore script a little bit. Now that I'm not at my parents' house. I was at my parents' house yesterday working from home because we're having electrical work done at our house, and we needed a full-day power outage. And luckily, they live 2 miles away, but working on a tiny laptop screen is just it is not for me. I don't care what other people can do. Mm-hmm. So when you've got a long store procedure to work on, you just have no willpower to sit there and code away. So I'll be working on that today a little bit, and then maybe tomorrow.
Man, I'm the same way. I used to think, I'll get to everybody's first responder kit check-ins when I'm out at the airport or on the road. Nope. Nope. There was that, who's the laptop that folded out into 3 screens? Was that Alienware? Somebody put out a laptop that does...
MSI. Was it MSI?
Can't remember who it was. Or
Razer.
Yeah.
It's always...
Yeah. And I'm like, that seems obscene, but at the same time, I kind of get it. I would never play a game on it, but
no. I would just unfold it in an airport to be a jerk. You would have to buy like all 3 seats in the aisle. What are these seats for? My laptop screens.
Are you running a knock? What is this?
In a way.
Yes. Paul says, can we patch in the Trump feed? I don't even know what's going on right now. I'm so out of the news. News conference?
Yeah, news conference at Trump Towers.
We could.
I'm not watching it. I just happened to saw a headline for it.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
We're going to have the best press conferences. Yeah, no, I'm not touching that one. What on earth? Tim asks, has anyone noticed any Mandela effects in SQL code? I don't even know what a Mandela effect is, so...
That kind of like a mandolin?
Well, I know about Mandelas as far as, like, art goes.
Yeah, no.
I don't know what it means is for code.
There's a lot of Mondrian effects, so I don't really know.
Mandela effect? Okay, so it's actually known as a thing.
No.
It's a theory of parallel universes. Oh, is this that thing where you notice one thing inside the other? No, I don't know. I have no clue what this is even about. So no, you'll have to elaborate. I haven't noticed that effect, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Tim says it's a really creepy new weird thing I discovered on YouTube. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not searching for that. Nope, not gonna happen.
You lose those creepy weird things to Wikipedia.
Nope.
If you don't know the name for it, can you really even notice it?
Can you really even notice it?
What is it?
Oh my God, we have an actual question. Holy smokes!
It's not 11:15 or whatever time it is for you guys.
Oh, but I was getting worried. I was like, man.
2 minutos.
Yeah. It's funny, some weeks we just have an avalanche of incredible questions. Some weeks it's just like a trickle, and then some weeks it's an avalanche of really bad questions, if we're honest, dear audience.
I noticed that when you tell the audience that we don't have hardly any questions left, that they start flying in. I think people are worried that, there's already 50, because they can't see who's in here, right? They only see their own questions.
Yeah.
Maybe people think we already have 100 questions. There's no way that we'll get to theirs.
And you'll notice now almost all the registrants, we can actually see your real names again. For a while there, we were just calling you fellow human being. But now we can actually say, here's a great question from Justin Setliff, things like that. Well, we might as well go ahead and get started because now we have 2 pretty good questions in there that don't have anything to do with the Nelson Mandela effect. Mandy asks, can there be any issues restoring a database from an Enterprise Edition server over to a Standard Edition server? I'm on SQL Server 2014.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that when we did that for to move a production database down to a test environment for like customer service at my last job, I believe it was, the restore failed because it was using an Enterprise Edition feature. I think normally though you can do the restores down, but this was a specific issue. I forget what the enterprise feature was though.
Yeah, I mean, it could really be any of them. It doesn't matter if it's partitioning or compression or just any one of those things that, or TDE or something that's enterprise only. If you're using any one of them, the restore will fail. There's, God, what's that? It's in some, I forget if it's its own DMV or if it's a column in a DMV. It's like SKU persisted features or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, persistent SKU features.
Yeah, that's the one. That'll tell you if you're using anything enterprising. You should know that. You're a good DBA. You should be aware of all the features that your developers are implementing.
Yeah, but she's such a good DBA, she never had to do a restore, so.
Ooh, terrifying.
And I've never really even used standard edition, so a lot of times I have no idea what those lesser editions have. I've always worked in large corporations that just throw money at SQL Server.
Those poor plebes using.
No, it's all enterprise.
Yeah, so what we had to do at my last job, because this was going to be used as a test environment, but it was going to be used live production, so we had to license it, and we didn't want to spend enterprise. We didn't want to waste an enterprise license on that one, so we had to restore to an enterprise edition test server, remove the feature, back up, and then restore it to the standard edition server.
My favorite way to tell when it's being used by a database is use SP Blitz. If you run SP Blitz, it'll actually check to see if any databases are using enterprise edition features, and it'll tell you right in there, so that'll help a lot. Justin asks, here's a really bad question, have you ever seen hypothetical indexes suppress normal ones?
Not the worst questions we've seen this week. Not the worst questions we've seen this
That's a
week.
good question. Hypothetical indexes don't actually get used by anything. It's just used for the database tuning advisor, right? And
Yeah.
they were just left behind from that, not complete. It didn't complete successfully, so it didn't clean up all the stuff that it left behind.
I wonder if that would ever suppress a missing index request, though.
Oh, that's a great question. We should totally try that.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
That means
right?
we have to use DTA.
Well, how do you create a hypothetical? Can you create a hypothetical index? I forget.
I don't think so.
Never mind then. I'll do
There goes
it.
your
Too much work.
Track that blog post before it even begins.
That's a great question, too, though. Could you create your own hypothetical index? So then we have to start tracing the DTA.
I did that once, and it was stupid looking.
Yes.
There's trace flags.
Yeah, there's that. I remember there was one like show plan feature that the only other reference I found to it was on a website that was all in Russian. I didn't click on it. I was like, I don't want to know.
Duh.
Nah. Renee asks, do you guys collect KPIs, key performance indicators of the SQL Server? And if so, how do you do that? What's your favorite way to collect SQL Server metrics? We should ask each of you. So, random nuts. We'll go knock-knock jokes. Erik, how do you collect SQL Server performance indicators?
I use SP_Blitz first.
How does that work?
You can log at all the tables, and you can set it up as an agent job to run every however many minutes or seconds you want. And if you're short a monitoring tool or round-the-clock DBAs who don't mind hitting F5 or one of those Darkman bird things.
People who aren't watching the YouTube video won't get that.
But if you're, it's a pretty good way to collect metrics across a variety of things like weight stats and file stats and all sorts of stuff. But then it's kind of an exercise to you to query and trend that information.
Richie, how about you?
I don't always collect stats, but when I do, I use SP Blitz. And even before I started working for Mr. Brent Ozar, I used SP Blitz. So nothing new there. If it ain't broke, don't try to figure it.
All right, Tara, give these guys an intelligent answer.
I'm a big fan of monitoring tools that can collect this data for me. If I don't have a monitoring tool capable, not licensed for a certain server, I might start collecting stuff there. Maybe it's perfmon counter logs that I'm using. But again, I've worked at large corporations where we just had monitoring tools collect all this stuff, and then we reported on that out to a DBA team.
Tara doesn't get out of bed for less than Enterprise Edition.
Sorry.
That's my favorite answer too. I'm like, we write SP Blitz first to make it easier to go gather stuff. But if I was a DBA tomorrow, I would immediately go to my manager and say, I got to have a dashboard. I got to know what's going on here. And I would never try to roll my own as a DBA. There's a funny story around me not getting a job because I gave that as an answer in part of the interview.
I actually have rolled my own monitoring tool. This was many years ago in a large corporation, but before we started shelling out cash for monitoring tools, it was a little .NET application. I didn't have access to the production server from my desk or at home, and we had to walk to the actual data center, which was, if I was in the office, it was fine because it was 2 buildings over. But it just became ridiculous. So I put a tool out there to then email me, some information, or maybe put in a log file and email it to me. But eventually we did get access. And then having to get a call in the middle of the night was ridiculous because no access.
You say that you didn't want to walk to the server, but how many miles did you walk this weekend?
Well, so I only became active the past, let's say, 4 years. I was pretty sedentary before that and a lot heavier.
I see these things, the pictures on Facebook, and I'm like, dear God, that's a mountain. What did you... How...
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the 2 hikes I signed up for Saturday and Sunday because they're both hard, and I didn't realize they were the same weekend. You should only do one.
Wow. So tell us about those.
The real question is, what's in the water bladder? Is water
it's definitely
really
water because everything else is junk. Everything else breaks the water, the hydration bladder. Yeah. One is 9 miles. It's only like 1,500 elevation gate. It's the boulder scrambling. I just completed a hike on Sunday that it involved a lot of boulder scrambling to get to the peak. I've never been sore on my arms from my hike as I was on this hike. It's just my legs. So Saturdays includes that too, and then Sundays is a cross country for the desert for a peak out there called Whale Peak, and I've been wanting to do that for a while. And you need a capable vehicle to get to the trailhead, so you need to go with groups that have those vehicles.
Wow.
Nope.
I think that's 12 miles. It's 21 miles, and I've done that in a day before, but it's just the elevation gain and the type of hike that it is that's going to make both of them really hard.
Now, Richie, you say no, but you started running again. I heard that on the podcast.
Yes, but I'm not doing 21 miles in the desert, right? So there's a difference here. Like, it was 60 degrees on Monday here, and I didn't even get out of bed. I was like, I'm not running. That's it. I'm done. So... like it's got to be hot and it's got to be humid for me to actually get out and go do it.
So for those of you who don't know, Richie lives in South Florida, which is where you don't even have to carry water. All you have to do is open your mouth and keep running, and you just immediately hydrate. Yes.
And the highest peak in Florida, I think it's like 350 for the elevation.
And that's at Disney World, right? I mean, that's like Big Thunder Mountain or Space Mountain or one of those two. Yeah.
Thomas asks, what do you guys think of using Azure or Amazon Web Services or Google Compute Engine for a third secondary, aka tertiary, for high availability? Is there one that you guys would recommend over GCE, Azure, or AWS? Oh, I'll take that one. I would use the one that your developers want to use because they're probably wanting to use other features or things that are inside that platform. So some developers have stuff that they like to use in Azure, some have stuff they like to use in AWS, whatever. So I would look bigger and from an enterprise perspective. We never get to pick as DBAs. We're kind of like low man on the totem pole there. Richie gets to pick because he's our head developer. He gets to architect all these things. We just, where do you want to go, Richie? All right, that's the one we're in.
Except I don't get to pick because you got to pick, Brent. So there you go.
I got to pick.
And then what do I do? It's like, oh, I'm going to use Azure for this, and just go off and do it. Be all right.
Yep. And then swear later. Terry says, Terry asks, do you have a recommended blog or anything on how to interpret and use the System Health extended event session? P.S. I have taken down all my Christmas cards except for yours, which is staying up forever. Awesome! We send out Christmas cards to our training buyers. So have any of you guys used the System Health extended event session?
I have only used it to look at deadlocks, and I think maybe like occasionally just a little. I've looked at like the CPU utilization thing, but I just haven't really cared all that much about it.
I used it one time, and I had to look up how to use it because I can never remember, and also what is included in it. But Google has always led me to the answer.
Yeah, I would say deadlocks is probably the most common, and there's a bajillion blog posts about that.
If you want to learn more about extended events in general, there's two things. Look for Jonathan Cahias, K-E-H-A-Y-I-A-S, and then also look for SQL Server Central's Stairways to Extended Events. Both of those are good resources. Frederick says, I have a function that takes 35 seconds to run on its original server, Then I moved it to an identical server, same CPU, same memory, same SQL Server version, and it runs there in 5 seconds. I can't find any differences in MaxDOP, cost threshold, query plans, whatever. They're on the same VM server and saying, I'm out of things to check. What should I do next?
Statistics, I/O, and time. I'd compare the output of those. And
Yeah,
I would bet that there is a
query plan.
plan difference, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't mention a plan difference. So when you go to look at the execution plans, what would you do? Do you?
Well, it says that, I think it does say there aren't any differences in the query plans, but I would bet that there
you're
are.
right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I bet you're right. And you can we've got a post talking about how you can use a plan comparison tool built into SQL Server Management Studio 2016 to compare 2 different plans, and it'll find all the differences between those 2. Those are useful.
And then also check, while both of them are run Blitz now or who is active, and see what it's waiting on. Is there blocking? Is that what the difference is?
Yeah, SP Blitz First has this seconds parameter, so you can run it with @seconds 30, and it'll take a 30-second sample and tell you what happened during that time span. That may help a lot. Okay, Paul says, I'm seeing blocking when my transaction log that's running, and the blocking isn't picked up by IDERA's monitoring. What in the SQL Server engine could be blocked during a transaction backup? I didn't think backups would block anything. Oh, has anybody else seen this?
Information, I think.
There's 2.
Do you know what it is?
One is MSDB. So if the the beginning or the end of your log backup, it'll hit MSDB in order to read or write backup information. And so I ran into this before when I had a long history of backups and I wasn't purging it out. So then my monitoring tools would actually get blocked. And you know what's funny? A lot of monitoring tools will exclude their own queries. So they won't show you that they're part of the problem. If I had a crispy taco to bet, I would bet it on that one. It could theoretically also be system tables, but I would bet it on the MSDB tables. Oh, goodness, Jonelle I like already because Jonelle has a lot of money. Jonelle says, hi, in a transactional workload, what's the best practice for MaxDOP on a system with 80 cores? Not 8, not 18, but 80 cores. All right.
I just remember one of my clients that claimed that they had were throwing hardware at a performance problem, and they started with like 4 processors, and I think they went up to 8 or something. I was like, you have 8.
My laptop has 8.
Mine does too. 8.
I know that we say that max degree of parallelism shouldn't go any higher than 8 unless you can prove that higher will help you. I sat in on Gail Shaw's presentation at PASS for TempDB, and I think she covered MaxDOP. I'm pretty sure it was a TempDB session, but I went to 2 of her sessions. And anyway, her opinion is MaxDOP should be set to no more than 4, or maybe that was a TempDB data file. I was like, maybe that's what it was. I know that I've seen other people say max degree of parallelism don't go any higher than 4, but I know that we say 8. Try them both.
And Eric, you ran tests on CheckDB at Dell DBA days, and you ran it with different MaxDOPs, and it went faster when you went higher than 8 too, right?
Well, sort of. So in 2016, it went faster up until I hit the number of cores in a socket. So we had, I think it was dual 18s in those.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, so we had dual 18s or 16s. So we had that, and when I got up to the number of cores in a socket, DBCC CheckDB went not like crazy faster, but it did get faster and faster up until I hit the number of cores in a socket. But prior to 2016, I've always found that it sort of levels off around MaxDOP 8. I've never found that once you get up to like MaxDOP, 16, 32, 24 hike, that it gets any better. Prior to that, but 2016 there is a difference, and whether that relates to whether that translates to workload queries is different. But you can set MaxDOP specifically for DBCC CheckDB in 2016, so that's where it shines a bit.
So I have done a little bit of work with a 80-core server. I had the opportunity of working on one of those guys. And for the workload that I was running, which was doing a lot of reading on vast amounts of data, one of these tables was like 6 terabytes or something like that. I was playing with MaxDOP, and my sweet spot for that one query was 24. So I did in increments of 5. Anything after after that, or 4, or whatever it was.
I was going to say 5. Why would you go in increments of 5?
That's our developer, ladies and gentlemen.
Smoking 5.
Increments of 13.
But after that, it got slower. Before that, it kept going faster, and so I just set that one particular query to 24 and kind of off to the races. I don't think we set max stop for that particular server, but for that particular query, it needed to be set.
And the reason why I bring up those other kinds of experiences is, especially, not most people out there won't invest in an 80-core server. So you, Janelle, I'm not just saying this because you have money. You're probably a smart and attractive person as well. Whether you're a man or a woman, it's probably either way. Stand near an 80-core server and amazing things happen. But you may want to have different settings for things like rebuilding indexes or CheckDB. You may want to be the kind of person who plays around with Resource Governor to set different max stops for different workload pools.
Well, I think, if I'm on an 80-core server, I'm going to be really worried about CMEM thread and NUMA stuff. So I'm going to be looking into trace flag 8048 and some of the other ones that help out prior to 2016, so they can sort of help out when you have that many cores. Because I'm guessing if you have an 80-core box, you are at more than 8 cores per socket, and that's when things can start to get a little tricky when you have those big wide CPUs.
How many cores, the new desktop you just built, how many cores does that thing have?
8?
120.
No, it's actually the CPU. It's a i7 6850, so it's 4 cores, 8 threads, so it is hyper-threaded. I didn't go with the crazy one.
So you have more solid-state drives than you have cores.
Yeah, but they're in a Windows 10 storage space, so technically I only have one solid-state drive. It's 3.5 terabyte.
Your priorities are out of whack, sir. I hate to tell you that.
If I wanted to spend an extra $400, I could have gotten, the bigger chip, but I didn't want to do that. At least not this time around.
Is it one of the solid-state vendors I was just looking at today has a 4 terabyte, 2.5-inch SSD out right now. You can buy it on Amazon. It's $1,300. It's insane. MM says, we have a why don't I read these questions before I start talking? MM says, we have a 2 terabyte database which fails the CheckDB before the backup due to my snapshot space. However, there's over 400 gigs free on disk. Oh, I feel sorry for you, buddy. Is there anything on how I should manage CheckDB or how I get around what that error is? Have you guys run into this error before?
It sounds really familiar. But I can't pinpoint it.
Something to do with snapshots, with this fragmented NTFS volumes?
Well, yeah, because the snapshots are sparse files, so they do something weird off the bat. I forget what it is, but God, what are those trace flags that help? There's
I was going to say there's a trace flag.
20.
I wonder if Bob Pustateri's CheckDB thing is public. Bob Pustateri.
While you're doing that, I would recommend that MM post this question on Twitter with, hash SQL help, and you'll probably get Paul Randall or someone like that reply to you with the correct answer.
Is there anyone like that, or is there just Paul Randall? Yes, I love Paul dearly. So yeah, that's a great point. But it is a known thing that a lot of people have run across, and none of us just remember it off the top of our heads.
Yeah. So Aaron Bertrand also has a post called "Minimizing the Impact of CheckDB" that talks about some of the trace flags that you can use that will change the way CheckDB runs, and you might have some luck with one of those. If not, there's always offloading CheckDB. You could back up the database and restore it somewhere else. Since you're already, diligent DBA taking backups, you might want to try physical only. I think that, I don't know if that would decrease the amount of work that goes into it, but that might be another thing to look at.
Humphrey likes this question so much that he has pasted it in 3 times. All right, so Humphrey, you got my attention. He says, if max DOP is set to 8, does that mean that SQL Server will only use either 1 or 8? Well, as much work as you put into your question, I'm going to give you a real short answer. No. That's just the max DOP. It's not the min DOP. If you look at your execution plans, you can actually see the number of threads used.
Only the actual plans, though.
Yes.
Not the cache plans. Otherwise, it'd be in Blitz cache, and just look there.
And it would be amazing.
And it would be hard to query. Let's see. Feig asks, should the field in the partition function always be the first place in the primary key for the same table? Basically, when I partition, does the partition field have to go first in the indexes?
I've never not done that, so I don't know.
Well, then is it partitioned?
Yeah, I think you can create indexes on top of it and have those not be the first field, but yeah, and sadly, I think it has to be the first one. I've never not done it that way either. Clark says, speaking of monitoring tools, Tara mentioned Foglight Spotlight in the past, or as we used to call it, Quest FogSpot. Is this the monitoring software she prefers? Why don't you care about the rest of us, Clark? All right, Clark, we'll step
Brent
aside.
used to work at Quest. I really did like Foglight and Spotlight when I used them at two of my jobs. The last job was using SQL Sentry Performance Advisor, and I liked it too. I haven't done much with IDERA, and those are the three tools that I think are pretty comparable. But are there any other tools that I prefer? I just have the most experience with Foglight and Spotlight, but SQL Sentry's or Sentry One's Performance Advisor is a great tool as well.
I'm having the hardest time adapting to their new name.
I know.
Sentry One. I'm like Sentry One Performance.
Sentry 21.
Sentry 21. Let's see. Graham asks, I'm doing some career planning, and I wanted to get your opinion on whether I should focus on database development and design, or should I focus on business intelligence? Should I know both? I'm already learning Amazon Web Services and Azure Infrastructure as a Services.
Richie say DBA anywhere in that question.
No, yeah, I think he just wants to know all the things.
Nope.
Richie, what are your thoughts on that?
What do you want to do is really the question for me, right? I mean, those are two pretty big difference things. I mean, you could go into both, but eventually you're going to get a job doing one. So which job do you want? Do you want to do the BI side, or do you want to do the DB design / development side? I think they're two totally different things. So focus on what you want to do and then go towards that.
And some people base their decision purely on the money aspect of things. So take a look at our salary survey. I know that there are definitely some people that are listing those as what they are doing right now, and see what salaries are averaging for those.
Yeah, I've done both, and I'm not doing the database, data intelligence, warehousey stuff anymore. I'm done.
Why not?
It seems pretty repetitive to me. You load data in, you clean up a crap load of data, and you take data out, and it's what you're doing over and over and over, as opposed to when you're doing a lot of database development. There's a lot of interaction between, hey, what's the business really need, and you're talking with the business, doing your database design and doing all that stuff. Where typically, when you get inserted into a business BI project, all that stuff has really been answered already, and you're just going in and doing it. So at least that's been my experience. So I'm done. I want to write code, right? So that's kind of where I want it.
I just never want to deal with reports again as long as I live, because it's always, can you move this number to the right? What does this number mean? Can you add this? No, I'm done with that.
Are you sure this is right? Like, nope.
I've had some fun with SSIS and SSRS when it gets into the coding aspects of it, because you are playing with, in SSRS you can have .NET types, you can have .NET stuff in there, you can load in DLLs, so I've done some fancier stuff with these utilities, so it wasn't just purely moving a column. I didn't get into that aspect, once I was done with it, it got moved over to a developer to take care of those requests, but what are you most interested as far as what makes you happy, what makes the day go faster? For me, it's performance tuning. So database development, if I had to pick between these two, database development does have performance tuning in it a lot of times. So that's where I would go if I had just these two choices here. Money and, what interests me.
Money and happiness.
Money first. Which is why I was an on-call DBA forever.
Yes. Oh. Feig says, we use the Blitz toolkit a lot. Are there any plans to extend this library beyond the database and architect tools to development helper tools? Well, the cool thing is that it's totally open source. You can add in whatever you want. So I've worked with other folks. For example, I'm working with Aaron Bertrand on getting in his replacement for SPMS for HDB. If there's other tools that you'd like to build, we can totally talk about that. Start an issue over in the GitHub repository, and the group can start discussing in. I'd love to see other stuff in there as well. Will we build it? Probably not. I think the tools that you see in there are the extent of the tools that we're going to build. We'll continue to make those better, but I just wouldn't expect to see new tools in there.
Yeah, like, even the... No, sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, like I was going to say, like even some of the tools that exist, we just don't add much to, like Blitz Trace and Blitz RS. We just don't do anything with them.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm skipping that question. Sorry, Graham. That other one, it's huge. Brent says, is there a way to see how SQL Server is using memory after it's taken all that's available? Like what parts of the memory SQL Server is using for what?
Yes.
All right, next question.
Scripts that do that.
And do you, like, where do you look? Is it in DMVs? Is it?
Yeah, it's DMVs all the way. I'm gonna totally barf on remembering the names of them, but I know that there are DMVs where like memory buffers or buffer descriptors or something like that, where you can figure out which tables and indexes are actually in memory and all that stuff.
Clerks is another one. Clerks describes which,
Clerks.
if it's used for log buffering or whatever.
Skip clock hands.
Wow! Oh man, that's bonus points for that. If you want a query to see as an example, if you search for OpServer, it's like observer but with a P. OpServer. It's an open source thing by Stack Overflow's dev team, and it's a monitoring tool kind of for SQL Server. It's like a dashboard. But if you go to their GitHub repository, search for the word clerks, C-L-E-R-K-S, and there's a DMV query in there that I wrote with Nick Craver, and it lists all of the clerks and what they do. So it just gives you what is used inside. I have no idea how it works. I wrote that thing like 3 years ago. So.
Yeah, not Amazon. Don't go to Amazon and search for clerks, but GitHub on OpServer, because the other one will get you something else.
Which is good as well, but...
But in a different way, Brent. Just
Not in a good way.
little bit different way.
Paul Olson follows up and says, what about Blitz Cache? Won't that show what's in memory? It only shows the one component, the cache query plans. It doesn't show, for example, what transaction log records are in RAM, how much always-on availability groups is using, all kinds of other stuff. Justin Setliff adds, Clerks was indeed a great movie. I've never seen it. I'm just going to leave it there. Feig says, sorry for my ignorance. You're forgiven. We all have our problems. All of us happen to also suffer from ignorance, so we work pretty well here.
Massive amounts.
Does Blitz recommend stats for what tables should be I think you mean where we need to update statistics.
Yes. Well, not Blitz, but Blitz Index. I recently added, and so it doesn't do it out of the box automatically because there were some performance issues. Servers that had large amounts of statistics in them that I think I fixed. It was weird. I've been experimenting with it with clients, and I haven't been able to get the statistics part to run slow since I changed. I had to hint the join types to automatically use hash joins because there were certain circumstances where like SQL would just woefully underestimate how many rows are going to come back and just be like, I'm going to nested loop sort through all this garbage. So yes, Blitz Index, if you download one of the newer versions of it and you use the @skip_statistics = 0, it will tell you if you have wonky statistics on any of your tables. And tell me if it runs slowly so I can keep messing with things.
And by slow, he means like over 20 minutes before I killed it.
I tested that on so many statistics objects and I could not get it.
Yeah, I remember that. And it was like 2 clients of mine in a row or something that happened on.
30,000 some odd statistics objects, and it's just not.
And this is exactly where our scripts come from, all the stuff in the first responder kit. We use this every day. We go and run it against client servers. So please, when you check in good code, make sure it doesn't suck. I'm not talking to Eric. I'm talking to you, the public.
Yeah, you're talking to me. I understand that, Brent. Yeah, you're talking to me. I get that.
You. Curtis asks, is there a way to tell if a query is coming from a linked server connection? Oh, I don't know that.
I don't think so, especially if they're doing an open query to use it, because it's just going to look like the query's local.
And it could come from, it's going to look from another server name. I think you could see from sysdm exec connections.
Mm.
or sysd, whatever the connections
Yeah, look
DMV
for a
is.
server rather than a desktop or laptop. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
have a naming standard you can search on.
Well, I mean, if we're just like brainstorming ways to tell, you could look at the execution plan and see if there's a remote query operator in there anywhere.
Wouldn't
might
that
be one
appear
way.
on the source server though, not where the actual
Oh yeah.
object exists?
Oh, then you know what? Look at the look at the SQL text, and if there are a lot of double quotes,
A lot of stupid stuff in there.
It looks like a really bad.
There's a lot of stuff.
Oh, we could probably figure that out too. But I like the connections. DMV angles where I'd probably go.
Yeah.
All right, the last query question we'll take is, I guess, from Brent Unruh. Brent says, what about Clerks 2? No, I haven't seen that either. I don't know if you guys did. Nope. All right.
Best part about Clerks 2, Goodbye Horses in the soundtrack.
Oh. And on that
I didn't think Clerks 2 was bad, but I didn't think it was that great either. So,
what's your favorite movie that you've seen lately?
Rogue One.
Richie. Which one?
Rogue One.
Rogue
One.
One. Yes.
Rogue One.
Yeah,
Rogue One.
pretty good.
Rogue One.
That good. I still haven't seen it yet. I need to get that in the theater while it's still out. I know. Yeah, I know. Well, I've been a little busy. I'm trying to get a dang apartment over in frickin' San Diego. It turns out to be kind of hard.
Priorities, Brent. Priorities.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us this week, and we will see you guys next week on Office Hours. Adios.
Adios.
Right.